Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome back to our Intelligent Automation World Series. My name is Sally, Head of Online Events for SSON, and I'm delighted to be hosting this event today. So it's one of our flagship summits and really, really great to see so many of you joining us for day one of the conference. So this session is the third in our super innovation sessions about how IA is really pushing boundaries and how shared services are using it to really progress their shared services. We're going to be looking at next level cognitive process automation powered by deep learning, visions becoming reality. So not just what we can do, but how we turn it into action. Before I hand over to our speakers, just a couple of quick notices about the console you see before you. As per usual, it's fully customizable. You can zoom in on those slides if you want to see anything closer. And I've had a sneak peek. There's some interesting stuff in there. There's also a copy of the slides in the resource center to the right-hand side. You can download and have a look at those, share them with your colleagues, or refer to them later if you need to. And there's also the Q&A box to the left-hand side of your screen. Our speakers are here live, so make sure to ask them lots of questions around cognitive RPA and also other topics related to intelligent automation. You can also use that chat, that Q&A box if you have any technical problems yourself. Me and Ashley are on hand to help you out with that. So who are our next speakers? First up, we have Dr. Armin Stahl. He actually spoke at my last conference and did a really good job, so we made him come back for this one. He has studied computer science with a focus on AI at the Technical University of Kaiserslautern. After completing his doctorate in 2004, he worked as head of the Competence Center, Multimedia Analysis and Data Mining at the German Research Center for AI. And since 2013, Armin works at Insiders Technology, where he's responsible for product management. So sounds like he really knows what he's talking about. A good person to have on this session. He's joined by his colleague, Christian Böchelmann, who joined Insiders Technologies in 2004, where he focuses on sales, both direct and indirect, building VAR and integration partnerships, as well as developing the customer base of Insiders. His dedication is bringing latest AI-based products to companies of all industries. So I'm going to hand over to Christian to kickstart our next presentation. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sally. So thank you for that lovely introduction. And thank you for the opportunity to present ourselves and our latest AI capabilities for our audience here. As you said, my name is Christian. I'm located in Munich, a bit further away from where Armin is sitting. And I'm quite glad that Armin is with me because, as you already introduced him, he is the expert in artificial intelligence. And I have heard so many things this morning about hyper-automation, real-time hyper-automation, and the latest term, I've never heard that before, was augmented intelligence. I hope that Armin can clarify all that. But today we want to focus on cognitive process automation and deep learning technologies that enable a lot of things that we've not seen before. So thanks, Armin, for supporting me here, because I have quite a difficult job to do in my life. My challenge in a shared service center that I have to fulfill every day is I always call that to bridge a gap at the very beginning. And that gap is that I'm receiving millions and millions of documents, emails, paper-based documents, messages, chats, faxes even. I can't believe it, but faxes still. Somehow I have to transfer that to my customers internally in the shared service center, but also within our organization, like finance groups, HR, well-known terms are purchase to pay, order to cash. I'm responsible for travel management, also responsible for our info ad address and our service ad address, and I'm just receiving all this stuff there. Well, and my job, my real challenge here is I have to handle all these incoming documents and I have to prepare them for our internal customers so that they can either automatically process them or that they are prepared to manually process them. And there's two targets that I have to meet. I have to automate, and it shouldn't cost anything. And that's a big dilemma for me because over time, there have been a lot of complexities added to my life. First of all, we have increased the number of channels where customers and employees and stakeholders and shareholders can communicate with us. In the past, it was just paper, and then it was email, it was portals, it was an app, it is a chatbot, and it's the good old text machine. So it's really, really complex to handle all those channels. And with increasing the number of challenges, the complexity of the documents that I receive has tremendously increased. It's pictures taken of documents. It's basically anything, and I have to make sure that each and every document is processed and is forwarded to the right group in order to be finalized and done. And of course, and that's probably an effect of artificial intelligence also, there is a growing demand internally for data, and again, data. So almost every week I get a new request for, can you create this information out of the document? Can you create that information out of the document? And that results, first of all, in a lot of manual effort that I have to put in there. And in addition, and we're talking about AI here, and still we have increasing costs for enabling all our IT systems to do that. So Armin, my first question to you, we've heard so much about AI today in the previous sessions, and I know that you are the expert for AI. How can artificial intelligence help?
Hi, Christian. Thanks first for the nice introduction. And yes, you're right. Indeed, with AI, we have today a really powerful tool set of algorithms, of approaches to support your task in process automation. And that's not completely new. We already used AI and especially machine learning technologies for a lot of years in the area of input management, where it's also about document processing. So, for example, we used support vector machines already in the year 2005 to do document classification. I will tell you a little bit more about that later. But on the other hand, at the moment, or let's say for the last 2 to 4 years, we see really a dramatic a revolution in AI driven by new deep learning technologies which were developed. These technologies are mainly based on really complex artificial neural networks, and they give us really completely new opportunities. With these algorithms, we can really today realize visions that we have for a long time, but we were not able to realize them in the past because the available technology limited us. But today we have much more options. But on the other hand, we have to pick out the right algorithms for the right tasks and challenges. There is not the one AI algorithm which can solve any of your problems. You have always to pick out of these algorithms that you here see on the right side, the right algorithms for the right tasks. And even then, you cannot solve everything. You have to take a closer look on your problems and then see how far we come with really these new amazing technologies. So I would suggest give me a little bit more insight in your real problems. Show me where are the obstacles that you have today in process automation, and then we can see whether these technologies can really help us to solve your problems.
All right. So yeah, that sounds reasonable. I was hoping for that one global AI solution that knows everything even before I get a problem, but obviously it's not there. So yeah, my problems, I mean, I was talking about complexity and different channels and all that. So one thing that my folks keep telling me is there is so many documents that they can't read. To give you a little bit of an idea what that could be like, you see car papers at the top left. You see something that I cannot really read, but it looks like a travel receipt at the bottom left. And what we keep receiving lately is just pictures of documents taken and then forwarded via email, and they are folded, and there is a poor angle to the document. And I can't believe it, we still receive handwriting. Is there an AI solution to improve the readability of these documents?
Okay. The problem that you describe here is indeed a problem that we are faced with a long time. So if we want to do any automation with documents, with textual documents, it's obvious that we have to do an OCR first. So that means we have to read the text on the documents to do any intelligent stuff behind that. So OCR is really the foundation. But if our customers come with documents like here shown on the left side, so with heterogeneous backgrounds, handwritten stuff, and all these things, really 3 years ago we said to our customers, more or less forget it. There is no possibility to read this text, at least with a sufficient accuracy. We cannot really help you in the automation of these business processes. However, based on deep learning, there are now new technologies available for doing OCR. So the main algorithms that are used there are these convolutional neural networks, which are very strong in processing visual information, and these recurrent neural networks, also transformer models, which are kind of a natural language processing approach, which are today very, very powerful. And based on these approaches, there are now new deep learning-based OCR algorithms available, which can really help us a lot in processing these kind of documents. Let me show you just some examples in more detail. So here we see a document, or at least a part of a document of a German vehicle document. And on the left side, you see the results of a traditional OCR system. So that means the red text that you are seeing there is the results that the OCR is delivering. And you see it's rubbish. You cannot use it for anything. You will not be able to automate here anything. However, on the right side, you see the result of a deep learning-based OCR. And you see the result is close to perfect. So we see there's a model there. We see the manufacturer. We see the key number, everything read out correctly. So we can do here really a lot of automation in this process. Let us take a look on another example that is obviously a taxi receipt, and I will zoom in a little bit because an interesting part is here a stamp, and it has a very low contrast. And we see on the left side, the traditional OCR delivers just nothing there. It does not recognize at all that there's text in this place there. And on the right side, we see the result of the deep learning engine, and it's really perfect. So we can read out anything here. And the final example, which is more or less the most challenging task that you have in OCR, that it's reading of floating handwritten text. We see here some address information taken out of a letter. And again, on the left side, the results are just random. They do not correspond anything with the content of the document. And on the right side, with the deep learning-based OCR, we really read everything. So in terms of getting the text out of the documents, you have really not to care anymore about these problems. We are able to solve them for really any kind of documents where text plays a role.
That sounds like a miracle. I mean, that there's no more excuse for my people to tell me we can't read the document, and that's very promising. So let's challenge you on a different issue that I have every day. So part of my job is I'm receiving these millions of documents, and it's really everything, and especially in the email address info ad or service ad. My customers and also my employees, they just send anything there. What we've done is in input management, and that's my role here, we classify documents by using keywords, invoice, or delivery note, or purchase order. And so what we are capable of doing is we really identify the different types of documents. And by using these deep learning-based OCR engines, we should even improve, as I've just learned. But I have another challenge in there, and that's pictures and documents without a lot of text. And I assume without text and without OCR, classification is almost impossible. So I end up doing it all manually because there's a lot of documents that end up in my clearing group, and they have to just determine the document type manually. First of all, the keywords is a lot of effort, and second, there is still a lot of stuff that I'm not able to automatically process. Can you help me with that?
Yeah, sure. So the cause for your problems that you explain us here is really the case that in the past we had no algorithms which are able to process visual information. It was easy for us to process textual information. We do OCR, we look for the keywords, and then we even use some machine learning techniques like the support vector machines, which identify automatically which keywords correspond to which class of documents, and then you can perfectly train a classifier which is able to classify your textual documents, but we had absolutely no solution for dealing with visual content. And that has changed also here by using these deep learning algorithms. Here, in particular, the convolutional neural networks, which are very strong in dealing with this visual information, can help us a lot. And we can build a really cognitive classifier, which is able to also look on the visual appearance of the documents. And then you just throw in all your documents in this cognitive classifier, and it will be able today, by combining these traditional approaches together with convolutional neural networks and also language models, like these transformer models, which are there, and it will be able to classify everything that you have here. And you have not to care about what is a picture, what's an image, what's a text document. The classifier will all that do for you. You have just to throw in your content. That's really not a problem anymore.
That's amazing, because that will help me a lot in automating my purchase to pay and my order to cash processes. There is so much stuff coming in that I have to just identify manually, and now can also automate that with those deep learning and cognitive classification technologies. That's impressive. Let's move on. There's more challenges. Data extraction. I have, as I already said, I constantly have to add information to the documents that I am processing. Of course, it's business-related data. My customers expect everything on the document in order to ideally auto-process the document. Then there's the RPA folks that build their robots, and those robots need data, and the data originates from my documents, so I have to deliver more and more data. And then there's all those data scientists running around, and they build up huge data lakes. They do analytics, and again, they are asking for data. My problem here is twofold. First, IT tells me it's not that easy, and I'm surprised, because I always thought AI would help with everything. Their project portfolio is fully booked. They cannot do the change on a quick notice. Their sprints are packed. They need external partners that are experts with the software that we are using. And of course, it all costs money. And I told you before, my job should be 100% automation at no cost at all, which is impossible. So I need AI to support me. Is there a way, by the help of AI technologies, to support my problem here?
Yes, there is a way. So the reason for your problems in the past was, if you want to build an extraction service, for example, here on the right, you see a receipt, and let's say the task of your process automation is that you need this total amount on the receipt. You need this information to automate the process. And if you want to build a data extraction service, you have to do it with a lot of rules. You have to do regular expression formulating. You have to do a lot of real-based stuff, and you need experts for that. You need really persons who are able to do that, which have the IT background, which are knowledge engineers and all that stuff. And that's the problem. It's really a lot of work to do that in this rule-based approach. But today, with these learning algorithms, we can do it in a complete, professional-driven way. You just take some examples, some training examples. Here you have a receipt, and you tell the system, this cognitive extraction system, I'm interested in this marked information, so in the total amount. And you do that for a bunch of documents. They might be very heterogeneous. The system doesn't care about that. And once you give the system these training examples, it learns a cognitive model of this extraction task, of these kind of documents. And once the system is trained, you can just apply it on your incoming documents in production, and it will be able to automatically extract the needed information. Here, the amount together with the currency, and you can feed this information to, for example, your API bots that they automate the process behind that. And here, obviously, you do not need any IT know-how anymore. You have just to deal with these examples, give the system the examples, and the system will learn everything itself completely automatically.
That really sounds like a miracle. Armin, there's one question coming in about Asian characters on documents. Is that possible to do the same thing with Asian characters?
Of course. So the deep learning can also, the deep learning OCR has no problems to deal with Asian characters, of course. So that was even not a problem for traditional OCR modules. They were also able to deal with all kind of languages. That's not a problem.
Cool. So next question. I just learned that it's pretty easy for myself to have my team train those models, but do I have to do that all on my own? I mean, there is so many things in this world that seem to be standardized, and yet those are still pretty complex. And I'm just showing you an example of a standard invoice here. Even an invoice with a purchase order relation. So that should be pretty easy to process. Do I now have to train those models in order to make that work?
No, of course not. That would be stupid to do it in this way. If everyone has the same kind of documents, at least in the standardized processes, like in the purchase to pay process, everyone has to deal with invoices, with delivery notes, with order confirmations. And we as a vendor, we use, of course, these technologies that I've presented ourselves to pre-train the systems and to deliver you standardized business solutions which are out of the box able to process these kind of documents. And that also works for the area of order to cash, where you have to deal with orders, for example, or in the area of human resources, where you have to deal with documents in the area of travel expenses or ID cards. So there is really a large bunch of standardized business solutions which you can directly apply to your processes.
That's great. So I just introduced those solutions and it's all working. I've learned a lot, Armin. Thank you very much. But there is one last thing that is driving me crazy every day, because I have a problem and someone in my organization is a smart solution and we introduce a new software. So we have like 10 different tools for 10 different problems. Is there anything to facilitate that, to make that more easier? How does all this go together? I now have a cool OCR, I have cognitive classification, I have cognitive extraction. How does this fit together? How can I monitor all that? I don't want to have 10 different monitors to check OCR and classification. And of course, I have to do reporting on my SLAs, on my performance, and on my automation. Is this possible to do that with these different tools?
Sure, of course. So at the end, you should not use all these different tools separately, but you should just select a cognitive process automation platform. There are several vendors which are offering these solutions today, which offer you all these kinds of services, solutions that we have talked about. So you have extraction services, you have classification services, and so on. And together with that, you also get such kind of graphical process designers, like here shown in the screenshot, which enable you to connect all these different services together so that you have really a processing of your end-to-end process. And that makes it quite easy for you because you have these low-code, no-code interfaces here, and you still need not to do any programming here anymore. So that's one thing. And the other thing you mentioned, data analytics. So you have to look on the final results you achieve with your automation. You are interested in processing times and touchlet rates, and you want to observe where is still further automation potential. So you want to find the bottlenecks and improve your solution over time. And of course, these platforms are also delivering very, very powerful BI solutions so that you can really do a very detailed analysis of all these data that's coming in there and do the right decisions for improving continuously.
That sounds more than perfect. So, I mean, thank you very much. You've answered a lot of my problems: unreadable documents, classification, extraction, monitoring, process work, and all that. And I learned there's also standard solutions already available that use based on deep learning, I expect. Thank you for helping me. So all I have to do is contact. Thank you. All you have to do is contact Insiders Technologies. And as Sally already introduced, Armin is a genius AI guy. He used to work for that DFKI where we span off a couple of years ago. It's more than 20 years ago now. So the core ambition and the core focus of Insiders is artificial intelligence. Having all those deep learning fancy technologies available that Armin was talking about, but what our ambition really is to make that available to customers in terms of usability and customer experience so that I, as a shared service center guy, are able to train those models by myself, and I'm not depending on IT or external vendors and all that. We've done that for more than 3,000 customers all around the world. Sally already mentioned the speech of Armin that he delivered last time. I think one of the best examples is BASF and the shared service center that we have equipped with our software. And now we're happy to answer your questions. I've already answered a couple in the chat, so if there is more, feel free to ask. I'm handing over to Sally.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, guys. Really, really interesting. And yes, as Christian said, it's question time. So please pop your questions into the Q&A and we'll get to as many of those as possible. So the first question comes through from Achana. Achana's asking, does your solution handle different formats of documents since they differ by region? Do you want do you want to have that first, Armin? Should I direct that to you?
I suppose with different formats, she means different file formats. So of course that's not a problem. So we can handle JPEGs, TIFFs, PDF, all kind of PDFs. So that's a basic foundation that we are able to deal with all these formats there, of course.
Brilliant. Another question's come through from Shirley. Shirley's asking, what is the error rate for classifying, extracting the data?
So that's a question that we hear very, very often from our customers at the beginning in the sales process. And honestly, it's very difficult to answer that because there are a lot of parameters. What kind of data has to be processed? What's the quality of the images? To give a general benchmark there is really difficult. But today, with the new deep learning algorithms, we are typically always clearly above 90%, above 90%. But to give you exact numbers, it's not possible in general. That's you have to look, take a closer look to the application.
No problem. A question has come through from Lisa. Lisa's asking, with all these technologies, how do you prioritize where to start?
Yeah, we have seen there are different tasks. So we have classification, we have data extraction. Typically, you start with classification. But the good message is with having these cognitive process automation platforms, you have not really to do a final decision where to start. You just use the platform, and the platform delivers you all the services that you need. You have not to think about introducing the one system or the other system first, because the platform gives you all the tools that you need for doing your automation stuff. And it's quite easy in this way.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Another question that's come through is around the topic of time frame. So Elupai is asking, what is a time frame for implementing your solution?
So it's similar to the question to the recognition rate. Of course, it depends what you want to realize and what kind of process you want to automate. But let's say you want to do a classification first. You have incoming content, you want to classify it. It's a thing of some weeks, 1 or 2 months to introduce that. That's really not a problem. If you want to do further processing, do a lot of data extraction, and you have to train the systems, and you are, let's say, in a project with 3 to 6 months.
Okay, so yeah, that's quite rapid, 3 to 6 months. Excellent. I think we've got time for one more question. Let's have a look. What should we take? The question that's come through from Dominic. Dominic's asking, when listening to you, it sounds like there are no obstacles left. Isn't this a little bit too optimistic? What challenges remain?
Yeah, that's really a good question. Of course, I've shown a lot of deep learning stuff, and it looks all like magic, and it's great. But of course, there are also some drawbacks that are coming with these new technologies. For example, with deep learning, you typically need quite a lot of training data. And to deal with this case, you can combine deep learning with rule-based approaches. Another approach that we often used in our project is to do a data matching. So the one source of data you have to process is really the information on the document. But you have also a lot of information in your databases in the company. And we try to do a matching between all these data sources. And if you want to combine all these approaches, you want to use deep learning, you want to do data matching, you want to do also encode some business logic, because it might be easier to encode simple business rules instead of learning them difficultly from a large set of data. That's still a challenge to combine all these approaches that we have today available in the best way to give you the best result at the end.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, I could talk to you guys all day, but sadly that's all we've got time for. So thank you so much for taking the time to put together your presentation and deliver it today. I know that we didn't get all the questions, and Christian's been writing some answers directly to you in the Q&A, so that's fantastic. But I'll download all of your questions anyway, and if there's any we didn't get to, then I'm sure the Insiders team will reply to you. And you can also connect with them on LinkedIn. Their LinkedIn's in their bio on the right-hand side, so please do that as well. Now we're going to take a short break, and we have 2 more sessions left today. So the first one is around the topic of beyond bots, adding intelligence and accuracy to automation. And the second one is putting together the IA technology puzzle pieces. So all of this exciting technology we've talked about today, how do we put it together? And that's going to be with Brian Klockhoff, the Director for Automation Solutions at Dentsu Aegis Network. But before that, we've obviously got our session on Beyond Bots, and that's with Hyperscience. So you can either directly join that session with the green arrows to the right-hand side of your screen. That takes you into the next session, or you can go grab a drink and come back in 15 minutes. Thank you again to Christian and to Armin for that fantastic presentation, and I'll see the rest of you in a few minutes.